Welcome back! It's day 9 daily number 620 something, who cares? Where we're learning to be a better gamer. From Naniwa versus Innovation. Yay! Hope you enjoyed the song in the break. It was Sandstorm by Darude. This mug is huge. Look at it. Wow. I did a recap at the end, so let's recap. We saw the opening, chronoboost timings, the setup, this divergence point, but we didn't talk about why. So let's do that. So what is going to be hurled at us if he early expands and devotes his money to building barracks early? I'm not talking about these ones, because these will not really be participating in the 10-minute fight. I'm talking about these two that have helped produce Marines and Marauders en masse. The ones that will be participating in this drop tech. What we can expect as Protoss from a player who opened barracks focused is a lot of bio. A lot of it. So we need to have an answer to a lot of bio. This could be a Colossus, this could be Storm in large numbers, but think about what's really happening at the 10-minute mark. You're going to be split with the medevacs. So in other words, you can have large numbers of Marine Marauder in two locations at once. This is why we tend to see many warp gates, no matter what, around the 10-minute mark. If our opponent has fewer Marine Marauder, which we'll see later on in this daily, we might do something different. But because we know that a lot of Marine Marauders coming, we better be damn sure that we have enough gateways to deal with that. However, to play passive and defensive only is to be playing into the hands of the enemy. We also see that probe production is pretty light after we get past that 16 magical number. Still producing a hell of a lot of observers. Trying to do as much spotting here as possible. The drop locations, the vulnerable spots, are always going to be the biggest danger. Remember how I said it's fine to let one photon cannon finish? This is kind of why we're seeing why. Building a second one here is pretty useless. And off our units go. Hey, nice! We managed to successfully get charge out in time. Okay, so great. We have Templar for feedback so he can get fed back. We have charge. We've been chrono boosting oh so rapidly on this forge, so we know that we're going to be at +2 soon. It's time to expand. Now, we gotta have an answer to having a lot of stuff. We don't have to do it on 2 base, but as we're moving our way out onto 3 base, it is especially an important time to get Storm. Now, I'll note, what if just 30 seconds ago, before we had spotted this here, this duder, well, I guess we've been seeing it for a while. What if we saw that there was no third? Then our opponent's probably going to be really aggressive to us, and we probably shouldn't take this. We might even consider investing in an 8th gateway. We might consider skipping Storm and going just pure Zeal Archon. Which is fine. But upon identifying this third has gone down, Naniwa has a pretty easy follow-up, which is take a third himself. This is one of the easiest timings. If you see your opponent take a third, just take a damn third, man. Just do it. Oh, I'm gonna back up a little bit, and there it goes down. Great. Now, what's going to be going down with these gateways? As we can see, not a whole lot. This is the typical play. We get all these gateways. These are drop defense gateways to be able to warp in 7 units suddenly here. Or 7 units here. Or maybe we're in the main and he hits the front. We need to suddenly get out a lot here. Pylons planted behind the Nexus, not in the front location, but behind him. You look at where he's going to attack from and you build the pylon on the other side. You don't want him to run up and snipe your pylon and then you're boned. And then you're boned. However, having a bunch of gateways that are purely defensive is weak. Templar getting morphed in, few Zealots here and there. And this is the phase that I was talking about earlier. Many players will get up to 3 gateways too soon, and then this many gateways too late. We went into that logic. But here is the moment where people tend to start throwing down a lot of gateways. They're totally on the high of having Templar with Storm and are just like, I am secure. But we're still going to see Naniwa do a lot of responsible moves. Going to be doing counter warp in the main base. Yes. Has the spotter outside the front. Still has 1, 2, 3, 4 observers on the field. I would broadly say you almost always want at least 3. So great, Naniwa is going to set himself up here. And in fact, almost any player, any Terran player, will be getting upgrades. Might be getting ghosts, might be getting more barracks. Will be doing something interesting back at home. But with his units, most Terran players will be getting out onto the field and trying to kill you. Which is why, during this whole period, the Warp Prism harass is so effective. This is why almost all players, when they go for this 7 Warp Gate play, will also get a Warp Prism for the harassment. But we're actually seeing Naniwa be fairly active with these gateways now. Not throwing down too many. Because if you're against a good enough macro player, you die here a lot. I do think +2 attack is more important than +3. Or excuse me, +1 attack is more important than +3 armor. Because first of all, armor takes 120 seconds, and this only takes 160. That's a pretty huge-ass difference. And we can always chrono that and get that done fast. We can always add on a second forge to accelerate that, but pretty safe. Pretty nice decision. And in the meantime, the drop in the main. Hasn't been like an amazing drop, but, we got some workers. We can do a warp in here and harass down at this location. These pylons from Naniwa. I didn't go into that timing, but that's fine. As was desired. So here's another period where I feel, again, like many players, throw down the gateways too early and don't get this early enough. The transition, the switch, we've gotten Templar with Storma, so we better get the other tech. If we were to go Colossus, we better get the Storm tech pretty fast. Couple of units warped in the main, and then things are going to be relatively standard from here on out. Chronoboost, I imagine, will be continuing down on this forge, if they can be remembered. A little bit of a sleep by Naniwa, but it's not a huge deal. Oh, what do you know? Chronoboost on the forge. And here's what I was talking about intuitive chrono boosting. Yeah, if you need to get a Colossus out, you can chrono that, but these are still the biggest priority.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy.
And what's so great about this series of switches by Naniwa, I've been doing a lot of talking about the whats and not the whys for the last little bit of time. But in this period, we often see a player who will see Templar and be like, oh, I read somewhere that Templar counter, or Ghost counter Templar, so get the Ghost and then I'll build the Ghost, and yeah. And then suddenly you get the Colossus tech very swiftly. And like, alright, well, I read somewhere as well that the Vikings and Starport units counter that. And the thing that is totally screwing over innovation in the midst of all this is that he doesn't have any more than 5 barracks. He's going to have a lot of Ghosts, he's going to have a lot of Vikings, and not a lot else.
Your warriors have engaged
Dish
the enemy.
is what? Naniwa. Is a bruising.
Cannot hold.
Doesn't manage to get in. No problem. Continued warpins at the front. Soon enough, Sir Naniwa will punt a big storm into this whole army. Kind of amazed that innovation hasn't spotted that yet, but, sometimes even the best Terrans in the world will be able to make errors. So once again, this is the period of time where most Parasas would have a hell of a lot of gateways. But Naniwa's playing a little bit more conservative, doing more continued warp-ins, and we actually see that reflected in the fact that he has 32 damn zealots at this point in time. And, we talked a little bit about this Ghost Academy going down, the Starports going down. For the Vikings, Or excuse me, for the Colossus and the Ghosts. But what's the best against a hell of a lot of Zealots with mad good upgrades? Well, Bio. Like, Colossus are to kill off the Bio. Storm is to kill off the Bio. And then the Ghosts and the Vikings are to prevent that from happening. But then you just have, like, a lot of Zealots. Now, if Naniwa were under no pressure, then yeah, build the damn gateways. But because he's under pressure, he's not going to try to be sneaking in gateways. He's just going to calmly hurl out a lot of units while being responsible and chronoboosting like crazy. So we see some dances. We see some... Oh, there's some snipes on the Templar. In the unit count, we see not as big of a bioforce as could be. And in fact, these are only just finishing up. This is the first units that are coming out of these extra barracks. So we see an engagement where there are so many Zealots that he just needs to land a storm or two. The Zealots shove back everything so well that suddenly that usual dichotomy of Ghost Viking versus Colossus Templar gets shoved back by this stupid amount of Zealots. This is just insane. See, normally we have the Protoss player timidly retreating with his stalkers and poking and hoping to pick these off. But in this engagement, you just waltz the Zealots forward. These are going to deal damage, no matter what. And then this very small number of stalkers. Remember, we actually built 3 stalkers at the start of the game. We've hardly built any new stalkers. Just going to be picking things off. Yeah. Good Zealots. We like the Zealots. Yours. So cool. There's been no harassment. Nothing too dramatic to keep track of. Nothing too extreme to follow. Gateway's coming down at a nice time right now. Kind of aligned with, once again, passing 16 workers on all these bases. Mining minerals. Okay, so we get some Archons. I think it's easy to get a little addicted to Storm here, but if you want to attack, having Archons in the mix is critical. I think Naniwa does a really smart split here. This kills a really high percentage of players. He just leaves like Zealot Colossus and stuff back here, and just brings assorted pastries and a Colossus back. In fact, often Naniwa's rally point for his robo is just in his main. Attack at the front, no problem. Attack at the back, also no problem. Generally not going to be any Vikings in the drop in the main. So Naniwa takes the opportunity to push. Things are pretty cleaned up right now. Going up to around 10 gateways is a good amount if you are also going to be expanding in the midst of all this. So what I love a lot about Naniwa's setup here is that he kills that off, he holds off this drop, and then he just expands. A lot of this is colored by the fact that he can see that there's no 4th here. This is a very common 4th as well. And this is not. This would, if a Terran took a 4th here, you'd just kill it because you'd have a really good angle with the Colossus. But now all of a sudden, Naniwa is switching away from this Templar emphasis. You'll notice he hasn't actually built that many High Templar for Storm, just some. And now he's really focusing on these big Colossus numbers. He's chronoing out Colossus. He has more Stalkers in his composition. Blink to reinforce that. More Colossus, getting Blink. Pro production is not actually happening right now, because this is going to kind of be like stuff in my main transferred over. Actually, there it's going right now. Unit count Templar, very low. It's not like LGIM first, it has like 50. Well, actually, more literally, he has something like 15 on the map. But this is cool to see what Naniwa does here. He plants these pylons, checks this expansion, and then is just chilling. He's waiting for these pylons to finish. Not being too aggressive, Why not poke forward with a zealot and then poke back? You don't need observers to do these sorts of pokings. Okay, cool. I'm just chilling. Chilling away. Patient. Building a cannon here seems ridiculous, but it's great to have a retreat point with detection for ghosts. Very hard for a player to sprint up and pick off a cannon because you have all this. And if you watched my analysis of First versus Fantasy, you saw a lot of this. Zealots splitting off, going and killing expansions. Yeah, the bulk of the army is still chilling here. Templar split up like crazy. Uh-oh, with Blink going down. Yeah, this is pretty typical at this point in time. This is just, you need to have good control. A very nice way to do this is to have your entire army in one. The Templars separate from all that. So you notice when I go back and forth, you see there's different health bars. And then you have an overlap hotkey, where your Stalkers have their own hotkey. So if you hit 1A, your Stalkers will go as well. But now you can control these independently with their own hotkey, which I like a lot. Which I quite like. Usual sprints forward. It's good, 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 good. And with the accumulated patience of a ridiculous amount of games and a ridiculous amount of years in the professional scene, Naniwa chooses to engage actually at a pretty heinous angle. I was pretty sure he was going to lose at that point, but he had done so much damage and was in such good positioning with his stuff that he just... Or, had such good positioning with his Stalkers to pick off the Vikings that Colossus were able to prevail. And he won that game. And this, I think, is particularly brilliant. When all the Zealots are gone, almost everyone warps in more Zealots. Warp into Stalkers, much smarter with these 3 Colossus to protect. Basically means you hardly even need Zealots. Your Colossus are perma-protected. Next round would probably be Zealots and Templar. I'm just gonna go Archons. It's awesome. Zealots are the last piece he adds to this. Nice. Cool. So now we're gonna step into the second game that these two players played. I'm going to... Longest freeze of all time. We good? Is the sound good? Is there a crackle? Is there a crackle going on right now? Oh, there's a crackle. Alright, now is there a crackle? You know, this is why I don't switch my video from StarCraft. Oh. What about test 2? Alright, test 3, is there a crackle? This glitch happens if the camera's on me and I close a StarCraft replay. It tends to happen amazingly frequently. Test 3. Test 3. Don't say still there, because I have no idea where you're at in the lag. Test 4. Testing number 4. Testing number 4. God, this is so interesting. And test 5. Oh, you said test 4 good. A couple people said test 4 bad. 5's good? What a relief. That was terrifying. What if I brought it back? Okay. What we're going to see now is we're going to see the opening from Naniwa. Same thing on a different map. And we're going to ask ourselves a question. What happens when he does not see a big marine bio opening? What if he expands and goes for Video Mine? So let's see if we can spot all the things we saw before. There's the rallies, except for this damn freaking 14 gas with a jerk. Speeding things up, oh, pylon going down, chronos on the nexus, oh, there's a chrono. Starting the zealot and canceling it when we don't see anything. And there it is. Chrono on the mothership core. We're probably going to get this pylon up and then this gas up. And you know what I'm going to imagine? This stalker is probably going to be the next culprit. There he is. Last but not least, we have our good old Volpgate research going down. Scouting is non-existent. This mothership core is chilling in the main. But why? Why, Day9? Why would he do that? Why would he not float it to the front? Because this building is very sturdy and hard to kill. We'll let our stalker monitor the front. If there's a drop in the back, we want to be smack dab sitting up over the middle, so that we can take care of things. Stalker 2 coming up. Expansion going down. Robo, when did that go down? Wow, it went down at the 5-minute mark. That was really early. When did the Forge go down? Oops. Forge went down pretty quickly after that. Oh, we have a Reaper there as well, so we know, well, he can have gas. Good thing we saved up that chrono boost on our Nexuses so we can chrono boost out Observer 1 right away. The rest of the time we're going to be chrono boosting on our Happy Time Nexi. On our Nexi. Now, it's rather easy in a position like this to sort of autopilot and just throw down the Citadel. Haven't seen anything yet, but we did see this little push come up. One thing I will note is that the Observer very nicely walks out across the attack path. Remember these 3 stalkers that we built? More than enough of the perfect defense for us to hold on. And this should have gone down. But Naniwa is just going to sack a single stalker. Not going to bring back this Observer because we really need to know what some of his timings are. But you heard me say getting this single photon cannon is going to be fine. What about the fact that we've seen Widow Mines? A second photon cannon begins to be justified as well. We have no sentries, and in fact in all these games we haven't really seen a lot of sentries get produced early at all. So here, upon seeing this stuff, in particular this constructing barracks, this is the really nice moment where we can go, oh, well you're actually not going for mass bio. I mean, we can even see that starport unit move out here. Oh yeah, you're totally not going to go for mass bio. We actually see second cannon goes down. Oh man, yeesh. Now, what's Naniwa to do here? He's had to build an extra stalker. He's had to spend some money. He's spent some more money to deal with these drops. What we don't need to worry about is a ton of bio. What we do need to worry about are these pesky drops, especially with mines. So, you heard me talk a lot about how people get their first round of gateways a little too early. Well, Naniwa, he's going to be getting them soon enough. But first, he is going to get a robo facility for Colossus, which is a very, very good decision in this position. He doesn't really need 2 gateways at 8 minutes desperately, because there's hardly any units out on the map for Terran. Just 14 Marines and 2 mines, with no upgrades, and no upgrades on the way. A single Colossus is going to do a lot of work against that. This is one of the coolest transitions. I think it's pretty easy to, I mean, as Pult has shown, if you go for Colossus first, there's a lot of really annoying timings where you just flood him with a bunch of Vikings and bio and he dies, but there's just not a lot of bio. Marauders are just as important a threat to consider with Colossus as Vikings are. And now we don't have to worry about it. In fact, he's going to be almost all Marines. Colossus is a perfect choice in this situation, especially banked on the fact that we're not going to be up against a lot of units early on. Only just now is Innovation doing that. This is this divergence point I was talking about. Right when that Observer gets in the main base, you can begin to make those big decisions. So when we come back, we'll see how Naniwa plays this off effectively. Stay tuned. Oh, yeah.